Are you trying to get your shift together?
Welcome to the Shift Sisters podcast, where real conversations inspire real transformations. We're not experts, but we're experiencers. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Jennifer Richter.
We're your Shift Sisters.
Whether you're shifting like a sloth or it looks like you're having an exorcism, this is your space to breathe, reflect, and remember. We're here to talk shift with you.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Shift Sisters podcast. I am your host, Sandra, and I have my fun and fiery bestie, Jennifer Richter, with us. Hey, Jen.
Hey.
And today we have a special shift whisperer, our special guest. We have Alex Gallner, who is the founder of Journal Party. We are so excited to have him here. He has a platform that dives into journaling and community, and that really speaks to us since, of course, a part of what we do after we've discussed our episode is to dive into some homework, into some activations, as we call them. And one part of that is journaling. So we are really excited to have Alex with us so he could share his perspective on it, what he does at Journal Party, and all the fun things. So Alex, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So before we dive into journaling and all of the good stuff that comes with it, I wanted to just have a check-in because, of course, it's always good to know where we are, how we're feeling, what we're doing, all of the good stuff. And Shifties, as you know, we use our shift forecast to help us with our check-ins. And Jen, I wanted to start with you first. How are you feeling today? What's your check-in?
Girl, I am mostly sunny, feeling steady, hopeful, and open because I am trying not to let my to-do list take over me.
Yes, there's a lot happening. So we have to kind of, shake all that stuff off. So yes. For me, I'm feeling a full rainbow. I'm feeling all the colors. I'm feeling it all. I'm feeling the pressure of my to-do list. I'm feeling the pressure of just getting things done. But it all kind of works together and it's all kind of beautiful. And sometimes, you can get into the darker colors and then sometimes you get into the brighter colors. So I'm just feeling it all at once and hoping that I can, kind of slow down a little bit. But that's my feeling.
Love that.
How about you, Alex? What are you feeling today? What is your check-in?
Well, forecast-wise, definitely rainy, but it's like a cozy rain. It's actually raining like a lot here in Los Angeles right now, and that never happens. So, like, I'm definitely feeling the rain, but I'm in here. I got my coffee. The lights are warm. It's like, it's good. It's nice.
I like your cozy setup. I feel like I want to make a stew now after getting that check-in.
My wife and I were just talking about how it's soup season and we really need to start leaning into some soups and stuff like that. So stew adjacent.
Yes. Awesome. We also do here, Alex, is we also share what we call our shift sips. So we love to share just different recipes and things that we'd like to drink on a daily basis when we're having our podcast episode. And we get a little creative with it. So I wanted something a little bit like tropical feel. So I love going to Home Goods and going into their like food section, and they have like mocktail mixes. I'm not really a big drinker, so I took one of those mocktail mixes and made a little spritzer today. So with my umbrella, I have here a blueberry lavender spritzer. So it's one of those mocktail mix with some seltzer. And it's just so refreshing. And it's like hitting the spot, getting me ready to talk about journaling and a little fun and flair with my umbrella. Are you guys
looking forward to coming to Florida? That's why you're trying to get your tropical vibes on, girl.
I hear you. I'm in Texas, Alex, so it's not really tropical here. So
Gotcha.
I try to get as much flair as I can wherever I can.
I know what Alex is sipping on.
Just some coffee today. It's in the cozy fashion. It's like keeping me nice and warm and safe feeling. Really good. But before that, I chugged like one of those hydration drinks because I was like, I'm going to be on hammer. I can't look all dried out.
So. We're always about that hydration, but the black nectar of the gods, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had to make a maple latte in
Oh,
honor of my Canadian brother from another mother coming to see me soon. And I was like, I have to perfect this so that when he comes, I'm making him a maple latte.
That sounds pretty good. Maple latte. You know,
yeah.
I love like the little maple like uh inspired things, right? Like and the Canadians do that so well. Like you ever seen when they drizzle the maple syrup like on snow and they just roll like a popsicle stick in it? They're like, yeah, it's
It's a
candy.
thing, Jennifer. So, Alex, she's referring to my husband's, right? So we're gonna visit Florida really soon. But he was explaining it to me as a kid, they would it was like hot syrup, I think it was, on the snow and then
Hmm.
make lollipops with it. So
Yeah,
yes, Alex, that's what they do in Canada, I guess.
That seems like a
as you do.
Michael thing to do.
I love it, but maple is so yummy, and in this time of year when you wanna get warm and cozy, I love it. So awesome.
Mhm.
So, for our last kind of opening ritual, we like to do something called Scents That Shift Us. And we pair up an essential oil with the topic of the day to see if there's any extra supports that we can give. So,
Mhm.
Jen, what do you have on the radar for that?
So I have cypress oil today because I was thinking about like journaling and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of people might naturally feel a bit of a block,
Yeah.
right? It could be mental, it could be physical, there could be a lot of different things. But cypress is the oil of motion and flow to get
Mm.
things going. So this powerful oil creates energetic flow and emotional catharsis. Cypress works in the heart and mind, creating flexibility. Cypress teaches the soul how to let go of the past by moving with the flow of life. The oil is especially indicated for individuals who are mentally or emotionally stuck, stiff, rigid, tense, over striving, or having perfectionist tendencies.
Mm.
Cypress encourages individuals to cast aside their worries and let go of control so they can enjoy the thrill that comes from being alive and have perfect trust in the flow of life. And so it just made me think like if you're going to journal, you got to let it flow. So
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Cypress is your oil.
love that.
Awesome, awesome. It's always so much fun to hear your pairings of the oils with our topics because once again, you don't realize how much support you can have when when you're diving into certain things. And I love that idea of like having that cypress scent in the background as you're journaling. I think that's really
Mhm.
Oh, and the
cozy.
sentiment's great, right? Being able to
Right?
let go of control and all that stuff is
Mhm.
yeah, right on with journaling.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So we have completed our opening rituals. Now let's get into our topic. So before we dive into some questions and things that we'd like to ask you, Alex, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and what is Journal Party for our listeners and for those who may not know you yet.
Sure, sure. Well, my name is Alex Gallner. I live in Los Angeles. Maybe not for too much longer, but that's where I currently reside. And yeah, so I'm an avid journaler. I've been journaling probably, I guess, over 25 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, I started in my like early teens, and it's just been something that I've naturally turned to. I'm naturally like an overthinker. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm very cerebral. And, you know, I think that having a place where you can dump all of that and sort it out is super useful. You know, in addition to being an overthinker, I actually love like working through all of that stuff.
Mm.
It's not like a total plague if I can untie all the knots, and then then it becomes something that I can embrace with a little bit of awareness. And so, that's been kind of my journey. I've always been a bit of a seeker. I love to, do things like meditate, yoga, anything that can kind of center me because,
Yeah.
um, I also love to go out there and engage with the world. But if you do that from a place where you're lacking that awareness, you can quickly get swept away. And you're on someone else's ride. You're on someone else's adventure. And having journaling is such a great tool for me because I can whatever's going on in the moment, you can get it onto the page, you get in touch with the actual present. Even if you're journaling about the past or what you want to
Mm.
happen in the future, there's this magic of the moment of the pen meeting the page that you can get in touch with. And as all of those thoughts get out onto paper, it's kind of like clearing your browser tabs. Like if you ever have like too many tabs open in your browser, and everything just starts going slow, you can't find where anything is, you forget what you were trying to do in the first place. And to be able to kind of do that mental refresh, and to be able to kind of check in and
Yeah.
decide how you want to show up in the world, good or bad. Things are always happening. But if you bring some sense of awareness and actually put yourself into the now, that's where you can act on things. And
Mm.
so I find it really empowering. And so it's something where, it started with me just, writing about my day, writing about, things that I wanted. This happened to me in school today or whatever it was. And it's evolved into something much bigger for me, something like I always call it like a workshop of the mind, because sometimes I'm writing about my day, sometimes I'm writing my goals, sometimes it's gratitude. There's no, we always say there's no right or wrong way to journal necessarily, but just the act of actually kind of checking in with yourself is so powerful. And so the way that Journal Party kind of came about, I had already been doing this as a practice for myself. And in between jobs, really, I was just trying to decide, hey, how do I want to show up in the world now that I have a
Yeah.
little bit of open space? And long story short, like while I was really like trying to, mentally workshop that, I'm thinking like, what is it that I can do? Like I finally have the space to show up and be intentional, create something, and like, what do I want to do instead of just like going out there and just picking up another job or something like that? And right as I was like really, trying to think, what that would be, I had a little reminder pop up on my phone and my computer, simultaneously with everything in iCloud and all that. And it said journal. And I'm like, oh, that's it. There's so like, because I realized, it comes naturally to me. Fortunately, I've never had a problem with adherence to it. But just about everyone I meet, that knows that I am an avid journaler everyone knows they ought to be doing it, but a lot of people really struggle with it. And so I was like,
Yes.
okay, well, how can I make this fun? How can I make this something that I can share with people? And so started doing the Journal Party podcast, which was like a guided journaling audio sort of adventure where kind of like a DJ queuing up prompts and music, and kind of just a quick little bite-sized journey to make it fun for people. And I also do a lot of like web development type of work. And so then it was like, well, what if, what would be the next thing? And so I started thinking like, well, I love apps like the Calm app or Headspace that make meditation
Mhm.
accessible. And on that note, with meditation, this is another, I think it's like a journaling adjacent sort of thing, and it's similar in the sense where like everyone knows they ought to do it, but it's like there's a ton of resistance for whatever reason. And I was just thinking, well, like, how did I get into meditation? Like, how did I make that work for me? Maybe I can apply that to journaling. And just I think my challenges that I was having before being able to adhere to meditation were like, am I doing this right? Like, am I
Yeah.
wasting my time? am i
Mm.
am I napping? Like, what is this? And it wasn't until I started getting a little bit of guidance and having a little bit of structure that I really had the confidence to adopt it as like a practice and as a routine into my life. First with like guided meditation tracks. And then eventually, I found a meditation teacher who, I was able to ask questions, and it was like, okay, like now I have a protocol. There's something that I can do. Similarly, I don't know that there's a right way to meditate. There's all sorts of, different ways you can do it. But like just having a little bit of guidance and structure was enough for me to adopt it. And so, I was thinking like, okay, what if I made like the Calm app for journaling? What would
Yeah.
that look like? What's the parallel there? And so started uh, pulling on that thread a little bit and developed Journal Party, which is basically like a companion app for journalers,
Mhm.
where you can kind of like Netflix, you can pick a different program. So whether it's you want to overcome imposter syndrome, or maybe it's just you want to express some gratitude, or maybe you want to check in mid-year, whatever it is. Like, we have all these different programs in there, and you can pick the program. And then we have what we call power prompt playlists. So it's it's kind of like a music playlist, but instead of music tracks, it's journal prompts, and there's timers and player controls. So you can go at your own pace, but it also keeps a little bit of structure, and it keeps the session moving. I know a lot of people
Mm.
sit down with a blank page and they're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Am I doing it right? Am I wasting time? Right? All those thoughts come up. I call it head garbage, right? And you can get the head garbage out of the way, shake all of that out, and actually, once the ink starts flowing, magic starts to happen. You start to unlock all these great insights, and then the other aspect of this, which was kind of unanticipated, was the group aspect, because we started doing what we call Journal Party Live on Wednesday nights, which has quickly become my favorite part of the whole thing. So we get on like a YouTube live stream and we stream the app, but it's with other people, and we'll all journal through one of these programs together, and then hang out as a community and share
Mhm.
our insights. And so, I mean, you know, journaling alone is really great, but it's so powerful to be able to connect in community with people who have kind of done this work alongside you. It's quiet while we're reflecting a little bit, but then you get together and you can kind of check out some of the things that you pulled from the depths of your soul there. And
Yeah.
everybody coming from different walks of life, sharing different experience. And I mean, it's just I'm super proud of it because I love the people in the group. And I think the internet can be such a gross place these days. And
Oh,
like,
yes.
you know, you you get on there and you're scrolling, you feel awful after like a few minutes of engagement with it. And I'm so proud that like, oh, this is a place where someone can spend like a good chunk of time and feel really good on the internet, like feel actual connection. Like all these things were built to supposedly bring us together, and they're dividing us. And
Mm.
I I I hate that for us. I love that that something like this proves that it doesn't have to be that way. We can,
Mhm.
with all these tools, we really ought to be finding ways to come together and share the human experience as opposed to just constantly, coming at each other. So, yeah, long-winded way of explaining the journey, but it's been amazing, and so I'm super proud of it, and shout out to all my journal party people out there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I had joined a few of your journal parties, and I really enjoyed this concept of coming together in community because that is my thing. I just love, whenever there's opportunity to bring people together in a positive way, it just feels amazing. And I remember just writing out my prompts, and I said to myself, this is just so important and needed. And I think, and for me, I'm a journaler, and that's something I've been doing for many years now, but it was a very interesting and new concept for me. So I'm so glad you have that in the world now, and people can join that and participate in that.
Yeah, I'm glad you got something out of it. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
it's a totally different thing from like my regular day-to-day practice. Like I love my
Mhm.
morning pages and I have like my regular journaling routine, but I think like we've kind of tapped into something, figured something out a little bit. And as I develop it, we just seem to, unlock new insights, and all there's all sorts of really cool things coming. So I'm just, thrilled to be on the journey.
Awesome. So, you talked about resistance, right? And
Hmm.
that is definitely something that delayed my journey into journaling because I, could have journaled many years behind, but I just didn't. I stopped. I couldn't see past the white pages. And I would love to talk about that. And what does that look like in your experience with journalers or in your own journey? The either the resistance or let I want to put some kind of uh, just some attention to that because I think some people may be struggling with starting, and maybe even some men are sitting back saying, "How do I even start this? I don't know where to go." So, when you think about the resistance to journaling, what are some things that have come up for you in your experience?
Well, I don't personally have a lot of resistance around it, thankfully. And maybe I did in the beginning, but I think, it was like when I was discovering journaling as like a young teen, I don't know, like someone gave me a notebook and it was like mine. It was like, I was I was quickly able to jump into it. But, I do talk with a lot of people, because who have that resistance, because a lot of people come to us to figure out how to
Yeah.
start journaling. And there's this term that's been coined, like blank page syndrome. People get real freaked out about it. And for me, I think the blank page is like the most exciting thing. I
Mm,
love the idea of being able to say, like, hey, how about I create what happens next? As opposed to, having to necessarily accept, whatever. And well, acceptance is good. I think it's really good to accept what's going on, but to be able to, say, okay, I accept it, but here's a blank page. I'm going to be the one who writes my story. I
yeah.
think that's super exciting. And so
Yes.
I think that one of the things that we've kind of noticed as we've helped a lot of journalers get started is that once you experience the benefits of journaling, the resistance really goes away. And so I think it's, just getting started is like the hardest part. And so that's why we try to make it fun. That's why we try to make it like communal, throw some
Yeah.
music on or give you some prompts. Like, it's like, what do I write about? It's like, whatever you want. And like, that can be terrifying to some people, I guess. But
Mhm.
I think once you start to tap into your creativity or you start to unlock some insights and you go like, wait a minute, you start to connect the dots a little bit, you start to feel better. You start to,
Yes.
something happens and like, instead of this like knee jerk reaction, it's like, wait a minute, I know that I deal with things in a certain way, and I'm going to try to intentionally show up a little bit better, and then things work out a little bit better. And I think that another thing that's really great about it is one of the things we talk about is like I, I think circumstances are a thing. Like they show up for everybody, good or bad, and you can judge them. But too often we let our circumstances determine our state of being. And I think that what journaling allows you to do is kind of flip that around and cultivate your state of being before you go back out into the world. And then suddenly
Mm,
your circumstances start to improve. And that's just something I've noticed. It's not I no science there. Like I think everyone should take what I'm saying with a grain of salt and for checking. But you start to do that for a little while, and you can't ignore it because hey, you got the receipts. Like that's the other thing about journaling is there's a written
yes.
record of your journey, and I think that's also really great as well. So like not only do you get this really awesome souvenir and this documentation of your journey, but it becomes a tool that you just can't ignore because you've experienced it.
Mhm.
And so it's getting over that first hump. And so what I would say, if to overcome that resistance, try a prompt. I mean, it's not how I journal every single day with prompts, but they can be really powerful to break you out of your stuff, break you
Yeah.
out of whatever perspective you're locked in. And as you get liberated from that, you start to realize like, oh, hey, like, what are my assumptions? Like, what can, is there a different perspective? Is there a different way of looking at all this stuff? And, you know, a world of possibilities opens up to you. And once you experience that, I think, journaling naturally becomes something that you will go to. It's not, I think maybe some people worry like, oh, are people gonna read this? Like, yeah, well, get a lockbox or do it on, I have an iPad that I also will sometimes journal in if I, want to lock it down or whatever. So,
Mhm.
there's security concerns and stuff like that. But for the most part, nobody should be reading your stuff. And so,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you don't need to worry about someone grading your work. You don't need to worry about like how what you're writing, if you're spelling correctly, if your handwriting
Mhm.
sucks. Mine's terrible. So I think yeah, the hardest part is just starting, but like if you knew what the benefits were, you would jump right in, I think.
Yes. Jen, I would love to have you comment on that because I
Yeah, I
know.
have to say, so my husband is on the invisible spectrum, and we didn't know what we were working with for decades. And he had, with that comes sometimes like a lack of understanding of the situation and being able to read the room. And also, the self awareness was a very, very big struggle because they're not seeing things the same way.
Hmm.
And, there's this, how do I want to say, like self control that comes in too. So when they really need to talk about something or to understand something, it's almost pushy, no matter what the rest of the room is ready for. And
Mhm.
so it was one of those things that I encouraged him. I said, go write it out. Go write out whatever you're thinking right now, whatever you're experiencing, and we can talk about it later when everybody is like on the same page. And I was doing it essentially to give me a break and then also to give him an outlet because he wasn't journaling regularly. And it was one of the biggest, I guess I would call it like a coping mechanism or a
Yeah.
soothing type thing because he was able to communicate in a form of some kind to get it out right when it was important to him. But it was the first time he was able to look at what he was thinking, not just letting it swirl around in his brain.
Mhm.
He was able to see situations and how he was seeing it, how he was feeling it, and his confusion. And then when we did talk later about things, he used that as his personal reference guide, to help him remember everything that he was going through. And so it was a game changer for him to journal
That's
almost
awesome.
in a coping mechanism type method. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hey, I use it to cope with life all the time.
yeah.
I mean, eh, uh, as much as I'm grateful I have really good friends and wise counsel. My wife is great to talk to. I'm in therapy, and that's great. You can let it all out, but you know, sometimes like I want to sift through all this stuff before I bring it to somebody, or sometimes I
Mhm.
don't want to like, hey, like maybe I don't dump this all on my wife right now. Like let me let me have a place to kind of
Yeah,
work it out and
sort
see
it
what
out.
I think. Like,
Mhm.
can I listen to myself a little bit and like really check in? And it's so powerful to be able to do that. And from there you can bring it to wherever you want. You can be a little bit more proactive or productive with it. And I mean, on that note, like I mentioned, therapy, a lot of journal party actually came out of work that I was doing with my therapist, right? Because
Mm.
you know well, first off, uh I when I started like talk therapy, I would I would realize that, well, I love to talk, right? I can talk for a really long time, but I would notice I would get to like the almost the end of the session before I'd be getting into the good stuff, and he'd be like, "Well, that's our time for the day," and I'm like, "Well, I'm just unlocking all this really great stuff," and what. So he started giving me like journal prompts to work on, and then I thought, well, like, what if I were to journal like before and after sessions, and then it's like,
Mm.
okay, now that I've got all of it out, like here's the stuff that I want to work on. Like here's the stuff that came out of a lot of like rumination or a lot of deep thinking and checking out all this stuff, and then suddenly I'm getting like way more bang for my buck in therapy because it's like, all
Yeah.
right, we get the whole hour to work on the good stuff. And
Mhm.
so well, and that, and like having the having prompts that can help you focus on those specific issues that you have identified after doing a little bit deeper work is super powerful as well. So, one of the things I'm really excited about is we've created a mental health advisory board at Journal Party, because one of my concerns was like, all right, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a licensed mental health professional, and I'm a huge advocate for it, but like on that note, the last thing I want to do is lead people astray. And there's so many
Yeah.
talking heads online now, right? With people, especially in the men's space, just leading people astray and down all sorts of weird and dark paths. And so it's like that's the last thing that I want to do. Do no harm, absolutely. Like this is fun, but yeah, like am I doing it right? So now, um, I saw that we were doing really good work with, my own personal therapist, but, as the community started to grow, we would get more mental health professionals coming in and wanting to be involved. And so now what's really cool is like when we touch something that's, a little bit more sensitive, like whether it's like grief or, trauma or something like that, it's like, I'm not really the guy to produce the prompts and to work on that with you. But what we can do is co-create stuff with
Mhm.
actual professionals. And the other thing is I always advise when we get on these sessions is like, hey, try to be brave in your journal, like go for it, see what comes up for you. But like if it ever gets tough, there are professionals out there that are
Yeah.
qualified to help you, and you can take what you have written and bring it in. And I've done it myself, and it has unlocked such amazing personal growth for myself. And yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to hear that your husband found some utility in that. I mean, I think that's maybe one of our next steps, at least personally for me, would be to try to open up the space a little bit more to men, because I think, our audience definitely skews towards women. I think uh, w- uh, most
I
most of the
think
people
women are
who
just
like,
willing to give it a try first, right?
yeah, and maybe it's got a little bit of baggage, like, guys don't want to keep a diary or something like
Right.
that, and
Right.
it's like, all right, but like if you knew how much like personal growth and success and all this stuff, like, people are like losing sleep over hustle and grinding and all this stuff, and it's like, is that really healthy? Like, what's going on? Like, how about like we actually figure out the mechanisms that are going on under the surface in a way that's like got some efficacy behind it, in a way
Mhm.
that's like been studied. And there's like, we can start to work with people who actually know what they're talking about, instead of just repeating stuff that people, you heard, or you read from, like, who knows, right? And so I think, to be intentional about that, there's huge unlocks for everybody. So any dudes out there listening, like, come journal with us. It's awesome.
Yes.
Yes, we have a lot of grounded guys, and they will share with us kind of the things that they're carrying silently, right? And
Mhm.
how do they work through that? And how do they find their community to be able to be vulnerable with, and to grow together without crying and feeling like it's got to be a sissy party, because that's not what it's
Right.
about, right? They're like, yeah, we can play
Hey, real
cornhole.
men cry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, "We can play cornhole and still talk about some of the challenges that we're going through, and just brainstorm, or just have a place to talk about it and support one another." And so I love that the grounded guys we have are really, building that community, and I'm really excited to hear we're doing a shift reflection soon, just like what we're doing with you, but to hear what they've come up with after journaling, because this will have been their first experience. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna see if maybe we can get all of our guys at one time to do a Wednesday night one with Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
A
awesome.
journal
Yeah.
party.
Yeah, we'll
That
bring
would
all
be
the guys.
amazing. Yeah. Bring all the guys and we'll be there as well, and we could just I do it on Facebook, but, you said YouTube is where you also
Hmm.
do it?
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah. So we've started kind of focusing the live stream, like, promotion and stuff on YouTube. They're rewarding us for that, and I think, like, for
Nice.
whatever reason, like, if Meta is weird. Like, even though we have like a pretty big Facebook group and stuff like that, and people will subscribe to the events, we're getting all sorts of people saying like, "Hey, I didn't get the notification when this went
Big
live,"
time.
and it's
Yes.
like, okay, that's not great. And so,
Mm-mm.
I think, one of the challenges is it's like we're simulcasting, or doing simultaneous streaming, and on YouTube and on Facebook. But it's like, I think that confuses people because there's two different places to go. So we've started, like, all right, emailing out one link, and it's to YouTube and stuff, and soon we're just gonna have it so it's like, I mean, the Wednesday nights will probably still be on YouTube, but we'll have it all kind of contained within our app.
Yeah.
We're about to release a new version of it. I'm so excited about it. It's going to
Nice.
be like, ugh, I don't want to
Congratulations
spoil it.
on
Yeah.
all that development and success. I totally know what goes into it, especially with not only the thought process and the heart and soul and the actual like hands-on development. So I know that it is a big accomplishment. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll congratulate once it's released.
It's all right. It's all right. You'll get there.
Yes. Well, just to comment a bit on my journey, because you had talked about Alex using it as a form of supporting your therapy visits and
Yeah.
and things, and I didn't know where to start, and I had a hard time. I had this idea of diary, and diary just wasn't cutting it, right? So diary, I said, well, that doesn't feel good for me,
Hmm.
and when I was going through a really difficult part of my life where I really couldn't find any help or exit, I started to just write. And the unintended consequence of this was I was getting a lot of the stuff out that I couldn't share with family members, but also I didn't realize that I was a poet.
Oh
I
yeah.
start
It's
I
awesome.
started putting together these, thoughts and concepts, and instead of me like talking about my grief, I made it into this, this scene, or I had all these analogies, and I said, "Wow, well, this is kind of good."
Yeah.
So I started from my writings to create, and some of it, and I keep it very close to the chest, but I wanna share it. I do have this, this pull to share it. So I've shared it in close circles, and I've shared it with others. And I have a friend that's like, "You really need to write a book. Please just write a book." And it was just something that came out of this opportunity to sit down and write. Uh, and I haven't I've never been the same since journaling. And all the things that have come up, all the things that I didn't know was there under the surface. And also, I have different journal books for different things. So I have a dream journal because I wake up and I say, "Where did that come from? Where did that dream come from?" And I write out the dream and my interpretation of it, because there may be something there as well that I'm not looking into.
Mhm.
So journaling for me has morphed into not only this is my one, book and my one outlet. I have like multiple books, and some of it is, written, some of it is drawing, some of it is, so I just love the creativity that you can have around journaling, and some of the different ways that you can express through journaling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, congrats on that discovery because I mean, I think for me, that's probably one of the most exciting pieces about it. And, I think with like morning pages, right? Have you ever read Artist's Way, Julia Cameron?
Yes, yes,
Right. So
yes.
that's kind of, what, we stole like half of our morning routine from, which is basically, you just write stream of consciousness first thing in the morning,
Mhm,
for like 3 pages, and you start to notice like, okay, like after you get out all of the surface level thoughts, like what starts to emerge is, first off that you've integrated those thoughts in a much healthier way, but then creativity starts to emerge, and it's such a powerful way to start your day. Not only for like artistic creativity. I mean, I do a lot of like productivity oriented journaling, but
mhm.
like to solve problems as well. I think, one of my favorite things to talk about is how I think that there's a creative solution to every problem.
Yes,
And,
yes.
if you can get out of your own way, if you can shake out all of that head garbage, you know, you can start to approach things through a different lens, and see things from a different perspective, and suddenly your brain starts making these really interesting connections, and you start to instead of like doing things the same old way, like you start to come up with stuff that's pretty
Mhm,
good. And so, whether that's an artistic way, you're talking about like, poems, and expressing yourself. I mean, that's another huge, huge benefit. And what a powerful way to, kind of transmute some weird energy or anything like that. Right. I have a similar experience where, yeah, like if stuff's not going well, like I'll go dive into the journal, and, it often does show up in like prose, or like a poetry sort of way.
yes,
And,
yes.
th- I think back to also like even, in my earlier days before like I really like had a lot of awareness that was, what was going on. It's like, well, I've always pursued creative endeavors to kind of cope and deal with things. I mean, when I was
Mhm,
younger, I'd play in bands and stuff like that. And it's like, why do I feel so good after this? And it's because you take all that angst, all that
mhm,
stuff that's going on, and to turn it into artistic self-expression, it's like
mhm.
the most liberating thing. And then the other thing you were talking about is like wanting to share it. And that's another thing that I've kind of discovered, at least, one of my core values I've discovered is not only being creative and, solving problems that way and being artistic, and trying to like transmute those kinds of energies and stuff like that, but also to take something that you have created and to share it and have shared experience. Shared joy is like, yes, but like even if it's just sharing in general, something from the heart, something from the soul, and finding genuine connection in that is so powerful. And, I think really can allow you to transcend some of the lower level, thinking and energy that may have brought you there in the first place. And so super cool that you're discovering that.
Yeah. It's just such a powerful tool, and I think, as you said earlier in this podcast, I think everyone should do it or try it. And at whatever level that is, and I know, Jennifer, when we were talking about using journal prompts, you had said this is the beginning of your journey, or it's not something, that it's not your kind of go-to space, but
Yeah, I mean, I have probably 50 different journals and I've always brain dumped, but I've seen it as like just a place to organize or to put all the energy of thought and plans and desires and designs. And I've never looked at it from an aspect of I'm journaling, right? Because I didn't do it in a habit form and I didn't
Mm,
do it with intention. It was, well, I guess my only intention was not to lose it because I was like, I can't keep it all up here. It's too much.
right.
And when reflecting on all of these journals throughout the whole house, I would constantly be like, wow, yes, I did that. I got that. I built that. I made that. And everything came to be because I was putting it into the universe, right? Making it concrete. But
Mhm.
I've had so many different like medium readings and Akashic records and all these things. And they would constantly say, you need to journal your stuff and the things that you're going through are going to be used for your work someday. And
Right.
I'm all like, I don't know about all that. Journaling, I don't know what to do. And then Sandra comes along and she's all like, oh, you can do it with different colored colors for every line. You can wear feathers in your hair when you do it.
Yeah,
Like,
no
I don't know.
gatekeeping around it. Yeah, whatever you want to do, whatever is helpful, I think.
Yeah. And so it's crazy. So now I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm like this master manifester by putting this all in these journals. And I'm like, now what if I do it for real?
Yeah.
Right? With intention and
Mhm.
routine and follow prompts like what Alex and Sandra give. Like, what would that look like? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and on that note, about like manifesting and bringing things into reality with intention, sometimes like things something will happen that you wanted to happen, right? And it's like,
Mm.
is that luck or hey, I have records, I have books of
Yes.
me saying this is what I was going to get and do, be,
Mhm.
have all that. And it's like, okay, not only do I have that record, but like it really reinforces your own self-belief, which is the
Yes.
primary driver, in my opinion, of what is going to happen in your experience. And
Yep.
so to actually, be able to look back and say like, yes, no, like I have power here. Like
Yep.
there is power to me being intentional. And yeah, that I think that it just reinforces the whole thing, and can probably speed up your results, or just at least it's got to be helpful, just having that record and proof, right? Physical
Yep.
proof that you did it.
I love that. It's like the blueprint, right? You could just create from that journal space, and it's just so powerful that I feel like I could just, it's like you're the master creator of your life, through these journals
Yeah.
and all the things that you can write up, which is awesome.
Well, I have
So,
to say for anybody that hasn't done it, it seems like complete bullshit, I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't matter if it's meditating or journaling, it all seems just completely ridiculous, but you do not know unless you give it a try.
yeah,
Well, and
Try
yeah,
for
even if it
1
is like
week.
just having the record of all your thoughts and all of that is cool.
1
I
yeah,
week.
mean, if
Mhm.
that's all you got out of it, like what a great thing. Like, people are so worried about their legacy and stuff like that. I don't know. I still don't know if I'm going to leave my journals behind to if I have
people.
kids or anything like that. But we might have a burn party, but on my way out. But even so, to be able to be able to just have like that record, I think is powerful. If that's all you got, and I promise it's not all you're gonna get.
Yep.
Awesome. So let's talk about tools. So Alex, you talked about having your iPad for those kind of
Yeah.
those prompts or entries that you want to keep close to you.
Hmm.
And as Jennifer alluded to, like I love to have all the bells and whistles. So
Hmm.
sometimes it's different color pens, sometimes it's stickers, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's lighting a candle. Sometimes it's having different, journals for different things. So
Hmm.
um for folks out there that are looking to start their journey, what are some things that they can use, or how can they set the mood, or what are some tips that they can take away to start their actual practice for themselves?
Sure. Well, first off, I mean, there are a ton of things that you can involve in the process. And
Mhm.
so, that may be appealing for a lot of people, if you're into like crafting and things like that. Like we get a lot of those folks kind of coming in and, putting stickers and highlighters and the
Sure.
washi tape and all these different things. And people love to share their spreads when they make these like beautiful journaling pages and stuff like that. For me, my journal is super simple. It's I will often be using like a really cheap Bic pen or something like that. It's like chicken scratch. I can't even read half of it. I got to work on that. But it's so I I think for a lot of people that it can, having like all of the extra bells and whistles can be really exciting. It can bring you into it and foster creativity, but it can also be really intimidating to a lot of people,
Mhm.
when they see these things and they start to wonder like, oh, like my pages aren't beautiful. Like, am
Right.
I doing it right? Like, should I even pursue this if I have bad handwriting or whatever it is? And so I think, for if it helps you, then go for it, because then there's, if it's going to bring you to that moment of like creating, and however that shows up for you, that's going to be helpful. But, if it's going to create resistance about it, you know, let that go. Let that go,
Mhm.
because one of our like big mantras is just start writing.
Yeah.
Just start writing and see what
Yeah.
happens. And with the prompts can be, helpful with that too, because, even if you don't have the answer to the prompt, you can just start writing the prompt, and then suddenly, your brain starts to pick up on whatever like the intention of the session is and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, it can be super fun to pick out a really awesome notebook.
Right?
Going into some of these boutiques, and they have these beautiful notebooks, and you want to find something that works for you. But on the flip side, right? Like, if all you got is a legal pad, that works too. That
Yes.
totally works. And so I think, it's ultimately like whatever works for you. So hopefully, you have an idea of what you like and what you're attracted to. And if you're, someone who wants to do like big, flowery have a big flowery experience or something like that. All of that exists out there, and that's like a super fun world. And there's all sorts of communities, like the junk journaling crew. Like, I haven't jumped fully into that, but I've seen that, and people produce all this really great stuff. And then, on the flip side, like, there's stuff like bullet journaling, right? Where it's
Yes.
very rigorous and like systematic thing, but it allows you to kind of create your own version of it too. So I think
Sure.
the important thing is to not get overwhelmed by all of the possibilities out there, but to see what excites you and move towards that. Like, reach towards the things that are going to bring you in, because ultimately, I mean, stuff is stuff, right? We've all got
Mhm.
stuff, but under the surface is what I'm trying to get to in
Yeah.
in the practice. And so it's like, okay, like stickers, pens, notebooks, all this cool stuff, prompts, whatever. Like, at the end of the day, I'm trying to create a moment of presence and awareness,
Mm.
and maybe slow things down a little bit, because if you can't tell, I like to talk. I'm fast. I have a lot of thoughts. It's like okay, but like when I journal, it that kind of fades away a little bit, and
Mhm.
so the stuff is there. It's helpful, but I think what we're really talking about here is something a little bit less physical, a little bit more energetic, a little bit more. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I agree. I think, for me, it's really important to know who you are, right? Like, what makes you, what you gravitate towards, what you're excited about. And, for me, I have a lot of thoughts, and I have a lot of, you know, I am an overthinker, right? And my
You're in
hope
good
in
company.
having multiple journals is to categorize some of those thoughts, because
Yeah.
my dream stuff, it doesn't really go with my grief stuff. And that's
Yeah.
the way I do it for myself, right? So
Mhm.
I, in the hope of getting all the chatter out so that I can be a little clearer, a little more intentional, a little more focused, I have various, journals to help me work
Mhm.
through those different avenues for myself.
Yeah, the
And then I have a journal.
compartmentalizations can be good. I think I have multiple journals as well. Some people don't advise that, and I've
Sure.
kind of experimented both ways. I mean, I think it's again like whatever works for you.
Right,
I
right.
mean, one of the great things about the iPad journaling. So I still use like the iPad pen or whatever. I still
Yeah.
love the act of I think there's like something magical about the kinesthetic mind body connection that's going on there. So I still use the pen or whatever, but inside of like the little app that I use, I have like 30 different notebooks, and it's like, okay, here's the goals, here's the gratitude, here's the day-to-day stuff that we're documenting,
Mm.
here's where we're going to be planning for business stuff. And that's powerful. And I think I have like the physical mirror of that as well. I mean, if you I can't
Yeah.
really pan my camera around, but I've got I can't believe how many journals I have. It's
All
ridiculous.
right, I have a real question for you, journalers. Are you guys using one of those little hand exercise squeezy things to
I need
strengthen your
to. I
hand?
have
Because
carpal tunnel now.
everybody like types these days. Nobody writes anymore, and so then their hand starts cramping up. And I'm like, are you guys doing hand exercises? What's really going on?
Oh my
Yeah,
I
I
need to
need to
do
do
that.
something like that.
And then, like, my whole side of my hand is all, like, with the ink or
Yep.
Yes,
or pencil, right?
just get a
That's
tattoo
like a
there.
meme
Nobody
for
will know.
journalers in
It
the
just have it
making, I
like
think.
all these different letter writings and stuff. So.
Yes,
Right, how to
yes.
know you're a journaler.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Uh,
So, as we round out this conversation, Alex, I just wanted to ask, you talked about morning pages and other things. Are there any, resources or anything that you would recommend, books or websites or anything in terms of getting started? And obviously we invite our listeners to join in on Journal Party to get that
Yeah.
experience. But any resources that you would recommend?
Sure. Well, we have a ton of free stuff for people who want to jump in. We've got like a 21-day challenge program that's really great. Where 'cause it doesn't you don't necessarily have to be journaling for like hours on end. There's journals out there that are like one sentence a day
Sure.
journals, and I know my brother loves stuff like that, and so see what kind of piques your curiosity and your interest. But there's a ton of stuff out there. We've got a ton of it, obviously, that is free. Our Wednesday night sessions are totally free. So YouTube is really great, whether it's us or there's other people out there. I realize like hey, like sometimes it's helpful to uh follow or work with like an avatar that's more resembles you. So like I'm a
Sure.
dude, right? Like if and I got all sorts of different life experience, and so hey, dudes out there, like if you want to have like a maybe a more masculine approach, like I've got a lot of stuff for that. But hey, if you're the junk journaling type, like we
Yeah.
don't have a whole lot of that, but there's all these really great communities out
Sure.
there. I know there's a lot of really good Facebook groups that put all this stuff together. If you're a Redditor, check out the subreddit r journaling. So it's just slash journaling, and a big
Oh,
community on there.
sure.
And there's like, one of the things I will say, you got to watch out for is there's a ton of entrepreneurs that are popping up in this space, and you got a
Sure.
ton of people like releasing their like Kindle journals and stuff like that, which
Oh.
like can be great, but also like to my point earlier, like eh, consider the source. Like
Mhm.
you like if you're gonna dive into like some like a mental health journey or something like that, like
Right.
maybe check to see who that's coming from, like
Sure.
what that is, instead of just buying some like random prompted journal or something like that off of Amazon. But there's a ton of stuff out there. As far as free, I think that subreddit that I mentioned is really really great. Prompted journals, my wife loves those. I mean, one of her biggest things is like, she's like, wait, like you mean it's not just writing about your day? And it's like, yeah, it can be so much more, Alex. So I mean, a lot of people just have misconceptions about how it has to be, and the reality is it can be a lot of different ways. And I think that like I was saying before, is like once you kind of get over that initial hurdle of starting, and you start to receive those benefits for yourself, then it becomes a lot easier to continue this. And by then, you'll probably have formed some sort of routine or habit
Yeah.
or way of how you approach it. And so, yeah, a ton of great free stuff out there. And then, if you want to dive deeper, like we've got like paid more deep programs, like we've got some really exciting stuff we're about to release. We're like events around the clock and in the calendar where you can get in and do these kind of the same thing that we do on Wednesdays, but like, every morning or,
Oh,
like
okay.
and, a little bit more accessible for that. So if you like the group element, I know that's been helpful for a lot of people in our little tribe, but, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I would start with like Reddit, YouTube, and, I think a lot. I'm not a Pinterest person, but I've heard that there are a lot of great prompts on
Oh.
Pinterest. So
Mhm.
if that's your platform, definitely check that out, and yeah, see where it takes you.
Yeah.
See how you feel, and pursue
Awesome.
it.
Yeah, well, Pinterest, that's an interesting spot to check out. So thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
So, Alex, if folks want to reach out to you, if they want to find you and Journal Party, where would you redirect them to?
Journalparty.com. So, yeah, right now we've still got our legacy app up there and it still works.
Hmm.
And, but we're about to release something really cool. I don't know when this is getting released, but it may be out by that time. So, I would say, yeah, definitely check out journalparty.com and you can get into all of the, all the programs that we have and all the free stuff, or, you can check out our YouTube channel where we do, more visual guided journaling type of things.
Hmm.
The Journal Party podcast,
Oh.
if you're a podcast listener, is really great. And actually, I've had a lot of people tell me that they actually pop it on in the car just because it's like a nice little thinking session.
Oh,
Definitely don't journal while you're driving, but I have heard that's been helpful for people, and we've got like I mean, probably like 140 episodes of that, and they're all like 15-minute, with groovy jams and like 5 prompts, like real easy and really accessible if you're looking for an easy way to get into it. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to email me at alex@journalparty.com, and happy to hear you out and steer you in the right direction if I can.
Excellent. I love it. We definitely have you on our website under Shift Whispers, and people can click on that and it'll take you right to Alex's YouTube page because I would love to see our shifties joining his Wednesday night journal party. I'll be
mm,
looking for you guys because goodness knows my baby step self is gonna have to. I need the accountability. I need the guidance, the
yeah.
little, baby
Yeah, well,
journal
the group
walker.
helps. Being able to
Yeah.
check in, see the same familiar faces. Like, I mean, we share our insights and stuff like that. But like the other part is like it's kind of fun. Like you make
Yes.
friends and like they're good people. They're everyone like I mentioned this before, but you go on these platforms and everyone's just like coming at each other, and it's like, well, how about like we come together and
Mhm.
like
Yes.
what are we doing? And so yeah, I mean, even if it's just for the vibes, it's a good time.
Awesome. Awesome. So, as we end this wonderful podcast, it's all
Mhm.
talking about journaling. I have an invitation for our listeners to get their kind of journal practice started. So, one of the things that I think can hold people back is just getting started, right? Just how do I sit down and just get started? So, I did this actual activity a few years back, and I actually created we would call them nudge cards, right? So certain things that would pop up, certain questions that I would have, and I would just write down those questions. So I was having a bad day at work, and I would write down a prompt that would say something to the effect of, if I could change one thing at work, it would be X.
Mm.
So essentially, when you have those moments, in your commute or wherever you are, write those things down, and then put each individual prompt on a card, and then, fold that up, put it in a big bowl, and when you're ready to sit down, pull one of those out and get started there because it's meaningful to you. It's actually something you want to explore, and it gives you an opportunity to sit down and really kind of dedicate your thoughts to it. So
I love that.
I've used nudge cards in the past where, and sometimes, you're not in a place where you can sit down and journal, right? You just,
Right.
you're in the middle of a work day and you're just like, I really need to journal about this dynamic that I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
And write it down, have it in your notes, and then get ready to go whenever you're ready to sit down and have that dedicated time to it.
I love that because you can kind of like put it off, but like know that it's gonna get taken care of too.
Yes.
That's got to be super helpful. I know it would be for me.
Yeah. So that is the kind of the invitation I sent out to all of our listeners today to get their journal ritual started. Alex, before we end, is there any last thoughts, any words of wisdom, anything that you'd like to share before we end our call today?
Yeah, yeah. Don't overthink it. There's no wrong way to do this. Just start writing.
Awesome. Just
Love
start
it.
writing. I love that. All right, Shifties, now go sip something yummy. Take a deep breath and know that you always have someone to journal with. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's it for today's shift. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us. If you're loving the conversation, become a Shifty. Like, follow, subscribe, and most of all, share this episode with someone who's shifting too, or someone who seriously needs to get their shift together.
Do you have thoughts, questions, topic requests, or maybe you're feeling the nudge to collaborate? Visit us at shiftsisterpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're so grateful for your presence, your friendship, and your willingness to do the work with us. Because shift happens and we're not meant to do it alone.
We'll meet you back here next time to breathe, reflect, and talk shift.